Welcome everyone to another Up to the Time presentation. Today we are going to be looking at oblique projections. So let's get straight into it. What is an oblique projection? An oblique projection is a parallel projection in which the lines of sight are not perpendicular to the projection plane. Oblique projection is a simple type of technical drawing or graphical projection used for producing two-dimensional images of three-dimensional objects. There are two types of oblique projection. There's the Cavalier and the Cabinet. In Cavalier Oblique projection, the receding lines are generally drawn full length using either a 30, 45, or 60-degree set square. However, in Cabinet Oblique projections, receding depths are drawn full length using either a 45 or 60-degree set square. So below I have an example of a full-size Cavalier Oblique projection. As you can see, the full length is 27.24 and is drawn using a 45-degree set square. And this is what it will look like. Now, if we were to draw this same projection in the cabinet style, we would take half of this length, this receding length, 27.24, and we would get something like 13.62. Once we are cutting the receding length by half, we are adopting the Cabinet Oblique receding style. And that is seen here in this diagram. Another thing that we need to learn is how to draw an oblique projection circle. This is quite similar to the isometric circle, but it adopts different principles. The similarities are you create a box with equal sides. So let's look down here at this example where I'm going to go through with you how to create an oblique projection circle using this box. So the first thing is I'm going to take out my annotation and let's go now to here and I'm going to draw with a white. Yeah, so that's ready to go. Yeah, so the first thing is the box must be equal. That means all the sides here are equal. And we are going to be using 50 millimeters to create our box. So once we have done that, we can then, let me just erase this now as I've just highlighted that. We can then move on to the next step. The next step here is we find the midpoints and draw parallel lines from each midpoint. So these are the midpoints here, highlighted. That's the first thing, we highlight the midpoints, and then we draw perpendicular lines from each midpoint. So a perpendicular line is a line that is drawn at a 90-degree angle from the base. So what do we really mean by that? Well, let's use this midpoint here. This line is perpendicular to AD. We can see this is a perpendicular line here because the perpendicular angle is formed. So that's what we mean. Again, we're going to come at this line DC, find the midpoint, and we create a perpendicular line here. And these two perpendicular lines create a point. So we do this at every midpoint. We create perpendicular lines, and then we connect these perpendicular lines. So these 4 points should create 2 points on the outside, which is right here, and this one right here, right? And on the inside, we should see 2 internal points. as well. Let me just clear the drawing. Let me just see. Let me just clear the drawing. We'll be able to see the points. So the points are there. There's a point here, 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 and here. So there are 4 points that are created. Let me just put them in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's move on. What do we do now once we have these points established? Well, we start to create circles or arcs at the intersections. So let's have a look at what happens here. So let's go to the first point. First point is here, and an arc is created. You open your circle, the compass to this boundary or to this boundary, and an arc is drawn. That's at point 1. So when that's done, you go to point 2, and you open up your compass or circle, drawing instrument to this boundary, and then we get a second arc drawn here. So those 2 are done. And then you go to the inside. So we are here at the inside now. You open it to this same boundary and you draw a circle. And then you do the opposite thing here at the opposite point. And you draw a circle. And then lastly, once we have all these circles in, we need to start trimming. And then once we trim, we'll be able to see our oblique projection circle. And this is what the circle will look like. So I'm just going to go over it. And this would be the oblique projection circle. All right. So I hope everyone was able to understand how to draw this oblique projection circle. And you understand what a Cavalier and what a Cabinet oblique projection style is. Now, so we're going to create this oblique projection. That's what we are going to be doing, creating this oblique projection. But before we go, just let's have a look here at the different styles that we just discussed. Discuss the full size, full scale Cavalier, and the half size or the half scale Cabinet. And these are both done using a 45 degree set square. The ones at the top, the first one is done with a 30 degree set square. The second one, a 45 degree set square. And the third one is 60 degree set square. All right, now let us get into this. This is what we are going to be creating in an oblique projection. So let me just set up my 2 screens. Okay, perfect. So the first thing I need to do is I need to draw. Let me take up my annotation and let's have a chat. The first thing I need to do is I need to draw this face. But I need to draw this face flat without any angles. This is just going to be a pure orthographic face. And then I'm going to be receding. So what style am I going to be using? I'm going to be using the Cavalier style, which is all these distances are going to be full. So 20 is going to be 20, 80 is going to be 80, and 20 is going to be 20. So this should give us 80 and 20 is 100, and another 20 is 120. So this should give us a distance going receding of 120, which is full. All right. So let me first put in this orthographic face right here, which is going to be flat, as I've just mentioned. And let's get going. So let's start over here. What's the length? So we got to do a little bit of mathematics now. So let's get back over here, turn this on. And we're going to see the length to here is 50. But we need to know this circle here too. So interestingly, we have here the distance of the diameter from here to here is 80. So if we know that's 80, we know half of the diameter is 40. So that means this distance going down to here is going to be 40. So you're going to add your 40 plus your 50 up here, and you will get some distance of 90. So that's how much the length is going to be. All right, so let's get here, alpha line, and I come down here, 90, and then what I do is I go across, and this is going to be 80, and then I go back at 90, and then I create my box. Why did I create the box? Because it's easier for me to create the box and then to put the circle inside the box than to try to create everything without using a box to set up some form of boundaries that I can work within. So that is why I create the box. All right, so now I'm going to find my halfway point. I think this is going to be very important. So just putting in these halfway points. But interesting enough, I don't want a halfway point on this. I only want 50 down. So I'm going to offset, or the offset, my 50 down. And this is where I'm going to be, you know, placing my halfway point here. So now I've put those lines in, and I'm going to put them into the center line layer. Center line layer represents all my midpoints or my center lines. Now, I'm going to be creating a simple circle, not using the isometric circle as yet. This is just a simple circle, C for circle, enter, and I'm going to create that circle here, and then I'm going to trim. TR to trim, enter, and I've now trimmed that. Now, what else do I need to do? I need to put in a circle that is radius 16. This says here diameter 32, half the diameter gives us the radius. So that means half of 32 is 16, 1, 6. That's my 16 millimeter circle in. Now I'm going to trim these edges. Edges are trimmed. That looks good. No problem so far. All right. Now, what we need to do now, this is where it's going to get tricky. This or recede them. So what does that really mean? These lines over here would be drawn at an angle of 45 degrees. So saying that we're going to be using 45 degrees, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change down here my polar tracking to 45, 90, 135, and 180 degrees. So again, we come here, go to polar tracking, press the arrow, and set it to 45, 90, 135, 180. That allows me to always draw. Now, when I pull in this direction, I know that I'm on a 45-degree angle line. Okay, so I'm going to go back now. The distance is 120. Yep, that's the distance. And now I'm going to come down. Remember, how much do we come down? What I can do is I can even bring this. Now and copy that. Yep. Now, this is a thickness of 15, so I'm going to copy this down. And one thing I would not advise is the offset. Do not use offset when you're drawing these isometrics or oblique projections. Always use copy. Offset will give you a skewed distance. So again, I'm going to copy this. Let me just zoom in. I'm going to copy this over now 20, push in that direction, in direction to 45 degrees, 20, and that's it. I'm going to do the same thing here. Copy this in 20. Okay, I have those on the board. Now I'm going to trim. Trim, that looks good. Now, what else do I need to do? I need to complete this rectangle here at the top. So just bring this around here. I'm going to copy this from here over to there. Then I'm going to trim these edges, or I could have used fillet, clean up the edges. Fillet or trim could have been used to clean up the edge here. Now, what else do I need to do before I create the isometric circle here? I need to put in what happens in the background. So again, this needs to be copied. Let's put a point here. Why did I put a point there? Because I want to reference copy. So I'm going to select this node and bring it back to here. Right? That works well for me. All right. Now I'm going to trim. Now I need to create a tangent going back here all the way at 45. Right. And then I'm going to extend this to here so that I know, all right, I don't think this is installed properly. So this is not installed properly. The tangent might be around here. So when I'm having problems gaining a tangent, I normally start from an outside point, find the tangent onto the circle. It indicates that you're drawing the tangent, and you see the circle. So let's erase this. Alpha line, start from this outside point, and I'm looking for that tangent indicator, which is right here. And then from here, I pull it back to that point. Yeah. So I can see that this is in tangent. So it was a double line that I drew, so I just erased the second line. Now I can extend everything down to that point. That goes down to there. That's in tangent. Now I can trim. If that's in tangent, that's going to do that. Okay, so what I need to do now is I need to track where this circle is placed on this point. So just use that. Right. Now I'm going to trim. Okay, I've just drawn the tangent. Now I can clean this up properly. Okay, so that looks good. Now I have to do the same thing down here. Or I can just copy, you know. What I'm doing is I'm just moving this right into the point where I think that this would be in tangent. Right. I just saw the tangent indicator. It's good. Now let's trim. Okay. So that is in. That looks good. All right. So that face is done. I'll just remove these points so that they won't be distracting. And now what I'm going to do is save. Don't forget to save. Control S to save your document. You should, at this stage, give it a name. Mine is called Oblique Projection. Now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to create the oblique circle. This oblique circle is going to be placed here at the top. We're going to actually have to create about 3 different size circles. Let me just show you. So there's this circle that needs to be created, and there's this inner one, and then there's the inner one. So 3 circles. But I got an idea. Once we create 1 circle, we can then scale the rest and get the other 2 circles. So let's create the largest circle first. The measurements for this circle is 80 millimeters diameter. So let's go. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to draw 80. And then this one is 80 also. And then this goes across 80. And then this goes backward. There, 80. So I've created my square. I'm going to find my midpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put points at the midpoints. So that's a midpoint, that's a midpoint, that's a midpoint, that's a midpoint. So I've just put my points there at my midpoints. I'm going to switch over to my construction layer to do this next step. All right, so that's midpoint there. What do we do? Do we bring the lines like that? No. Okay, so these midpoints will go in this direction, right? Because this will be perpendicular. And how do I test to see if these are perpendicular? Like that, that's my 90 degrees there, so I know that's a perpendicular line, and this one is a perpendicular line. These side slanted lines are going to be difficult to get to put into perpendicular. I got one way. We can draw a circle here and then just trim. So now we have left with a semicircle, and we're going to find the midpoint. And you find the midpoint on the semicircle. That means you have divided the semicircle from 180 degrees into 90 degrees. So this is my perpendicular line here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a back line over here and then just, extend it. Okay, so that's my perpendicular line there. Now, what's the idea? The idea is that these perpendicular lines must intersect and create a point. So let's see how we're going to get this done based off of what we have known, right? So let's put in these other perpendicular lines. This point here. So these perpendicular lines are parallel, if you probably recognize that. And the 2 of these are going to intersect. So that's the F to fill it. And that's a point there. And the 2 of these are going to intersect. F to fill it, and that's a point there. So I can trim this. We no longer need that. And we can trim that. We don't no longer need that. So I found my points 1 and points 2. Let me just label this. So that's point 1 and that's point 2. All right. Now, and then these ones in here would be point 3 and point 4 respectively. So this is point 3 here. And then this is point 4. All right. So I got my points in. I made sure that my lines are perpendicular. Now it's time for me to just draw my circle. C for circle. And I'm going to start from point 1, open my circle, and I bring it to this boundary line here. I can either bring it to this first midpoint, or I could bring it to this midpoint. Doesn't matter. And I do the same thing at point 2, open the circle, and I bring it to the opposite midpoint. And I got my arc there. Now I'm going to open my circle at point 3 and open it to that boundary and do the same thing at point 4. All right, so that's in. Now it's time for me to trim. So I'm going to trim the glaring unwanted bits first from the outside. Then I'm going to come in. And bits that are a bit hard for me to trim, I'll just delete them. So this can be trimmed, that can be trimmed, that can be trimmed. And don't be afraid to zoom. So there we have it. This is our isometric circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the outline layer. Now, that's done. Remember I said that we're going to be doing, we got to reproduce this. Sorry, we need to create 3 isometric circles. Sorry, 3 oblique projection circles. I keep saying oblique, I mean isometric, because I'm accustomed to drawing isometrics more than oblique projections. So excuse me if I ever say isometric when I mean oblique projection. Now, so this one is 80. Let's put a measurement here so that everyone can understand what I'm doing. So that's 80 there. I need a circle that is 60. So I'm going to find a distance of where 60 is on here. And just 60 will come. I don't like that line, it wasn't drawn straight. So I'm going to redraw the line. And this is where my 60 would be. So this is my 60 line. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to scale this down. So I'm going to grab this, FC to scale, enter, select here as my base point, go for a reference by clicking down here, select the base, reference the whole distance, which is 80, and bring this back to this point, which we know is 60, and that should be my 60 there. Let's measure, DI to measure the distance, and that is 60. You can measure it from there to there, and it's 60. 60. So that's my circle that is 60 in. I can just remove all the construction from around the circle because we don't need that at this stage. I've already proven that I'm capable of creating an isometric, an oblique projection circle. So I don't need to have the construction every time I scale the circle. What I do need is to label this so that people at home would know. 60 millimeter circle, or this oblique circle. And this one here would be 80 millimeter oblique circle. So now the next one we need to create is a 30 millimeter oblique circle. So this is half of 60. So if I find my halfway line here, let me just pull it back. Yes, this is my halfway line. And I just pull my halfway line down. All right. So again, FC to scale. Select my whole object. I select everything. Enter. That's the only thing I'm selecting. So I enter. Select my base point, which is here at the end point. Go now to reference, which is a secondary command within the scale. Reference, R to reference. Or you can just go down there and click the word reference. Now select this starting point and reference the full circle or the full box. And then pull it back in to here. So that is that. So that there is my circle at 30 mil. Okay, so my circles are there. No, I think I did something wrong. You know what I did? I've actually transformed the 60 millimeter oblique projection circle to 30. So what I'm going to do, not a problem. Let me just copy out this 80. And I'm going to change 80 to 60. 60. Do this again quickly. Let me just label this as 60. So scale, SC to scale, enter, select everything, enter a base point, then go to my reference menu, select the base there, and go to this endpoint, and then bring it back down to that indicator, and that's how we know we are at 60. That's a 60 millimeter oblique circle. So all three of my circles are in. All I have to do now is find my midpoint to place these circles. So I'm going to find my midpoint. That's my midpoint. Midpoint there, midpoint on this side, midpoint, midpoint there. And I'm going to find the midpoint here. And let's put them in. So I'm going to put these into my center layer as usual. And just bring these midpoints together like that. Now, I'm going to transfer this over to all three circles so that I'm always able to find the midpoint at any one of my circles whenever I need them, right? So just grab that there, copy. Oh, difficult to do that. Probably best to do it this way. Max drop. So these lines represent the center of my circle. Now that I've done that, let me just max drop what's going on up here. So these are also in the center layer. Now, what I need to do is insert these circles. So I'm going to first grab just the circle. And I think the best thing I can do is to join these. So hit J for join, and there's one circle now. No longer parts. What I've just done, let me just go through it again, Control Z. The circle was comprised of 4 different parts. This is an arc, this is an arc here, and an arc here. What I did, I just created one by joining them. So click on the arcs, type J for join, and then hit enter, join, and now this is one. So it's easy for me to transport this from here to there, slot it in, and also I need to go up 20. So I'm going to move this up 20, 20. So copy that up 20. Now I need to trim that there, and also trim down here too. And what I need to do is I need to also trim on the inside. But before I do that, let me just place these lines. Yeah, of placing these tangent lines. So how do I place them? Let's pick a point, which is the quadrant. And then I'm going to come down here until I see tangent. And then from tangent, go back up to tangent. So I start off at the quadrant and I go down looking for my tangent indicator. And then once I've received that, I click and then I go back up to where the quadrant was, looking for the tangent indicator. And that proves to me that that line is in tangent. Or better said, that line is tangent to the circle. All right. So that looks good. And let me just trim back here because we wouldn't see these. We wouldn't see this there. What else we wouldn't see? So just leave that there for now. There might be more things that need to be trimmed, but just leave it there for now. So we got in that circle, which is 80. Now we need to put in the circle 60. So let's go over here. Again, we're going to join these pieces. J for join, enter, it's all one now. Let me move it, so I find the center point, and I use it as my base, my reference. And I bring that here. And then what I need to do is I need to bring this circle up a distance of 20. So I'm going to move it. Move it up 20. Yeah. And now I'm going to trim. So I'm going to trim off here. You're going to trim off there. And you also trim here. And things I can't trim, I just delete. So far, the circle that is 60 has been installed. The circle that is 80 has been installed. And now, lastly, we need to install the circle that is 30 millimeters. So let's just click here. And then hit J to join. All the parts are joined. And CO to copy. Let's move it by using the midpoint as our displacement. And I am going to put it right in here at the bottom. And that's where it goes. And now I need to trim. There's TR to trim. And we are so close to finishing this assignment. Actually, we're done. We've just finished the assignment. Placing all of our circles. And that is a complete oblique projection. What I'm doing is just dropping the lines that are construction, transferring them to the outline layer before I end this video. So I think this is finished. Let's compare before we close off this video what we have done here. So we can see we have this circle, this outer circle, which is 80, that has been installed here. And then we have an inner circle, which is 60 here. That has also been installed right around here. This is the 60 circle, right? And then we have the 30 diameter circle, which is here. That has been installed right here. And then we have the 32, which was easy. This was just installed as a flat circle, an orthographic circle. Also, but here's the orthographic circle. This circle, which is diameter 80, also went in as an orthographic circle. So nothing was done to these two circles. These two circles remain the same. All right. So this brings us to the end now of our oblique projection. I hope everyone was able to understand this. I'm going to now maximize this drawing because everything has been done. And let us just see what we can do to make this neater. So we did oblique projections. There are two types of oblique projections. There's the Cavalier and then there's the Cabinet. What I also did in this demonstration, I showed my audience how to create an oblique projection circle. And after that, I created a complete oblique projection object incorporating what I just learned, how to create the oblique circles. This brings us to the end of this demonstration. If you had difficulties with this, I would advise you to take things slowly, take things in chunks, rewind the video, pause the video, and you might possibly have to take notes. Take notes so that you would remember these steps. Anyway, this is the end of this demonstration. I hope you learned something from this. Please like and share this video. I am out. Thank you.